Hey everyone, this is Schism here with another 2,500 point pitch battle. My Empire versus Chaos Warriors. Starting my opponent's left, there's a Mark of Nurgle Gorby's Chariot. In the woods, there's 3 Dragon Ogres with additional hand weapon. Then there's 20 Nurgle Warriors, and in there he has a BSB with a Sword of Might, Dragon Helm, and a Luck Stone. And the model represented by Sauron is a Chaos Lord, his general. He is wielding an Ogre Blade. He has a Marker Nurgle and a Talisman of Endurance. In the middle, he has 24 Mark of Tizniche Chaos Warriors. In there, he has an Exalted Hero with a Flail and Mark of Tizniche. He also has Scaled Skin. And he has a level 4 with a Spell Familiar and a Charmed Shield. For his spells, he took Shadow, and he rolled up the Withering, Enfeebling Foe, Pendulum, Occam's Mindrazor, and Pit of Shades. There's a unit of 5 Chaos Knights with a Mark of Nurgle, and rounding out his forces on the right, there's a Mark of Nurgle Gorby's Chariot. Now, starting out on my far left, I have 3 Demigryphs. There is a giant smoldering house. And in my center, I have 50 halberdiers, and in there I have a warrior priest with heavy armor and a shield. In front of that, there's 2 archer detachments. To the right of that, there is 12 Reiksguard Knights for Stubborn, and in there, in the front row, I have a BSB with a Cloak of Ulrich. He has full plate mail, barded steed. He has a lance, so he's got a 1-up save. Also in that unit is an Arch Lector, my general. He has a Dawn Stone and a Dragon Helm and the whole kit and caboodle, so he has a 1-up rerollable save. And I have my level 4 in the second rank with a Dispel Scroll, and that unit also has a Standard of Discipline. To the right of that, there is a Hurricanum. To the right of the Hurricanum, there is 9 Inner Circle Knights, and in there is a Warrior Priest with Enchanted Shield for a 1-up save. And then there is 9 Core Unit Knights, the Strength 3 ones, with a Warrior Priest. And rounding out my forces on the far right, I have 3 Demigryphs. So obviously it's a cavalry heavy army. Wanted to try out, something different. So see how it goes. Turn 1 Chaos. He just kind of moved forward a little bit. And this is how the right flank looks. In Empire turn 1, I took my archers and I gave them a generous march forward to start harassing and baiting some charges. And I can see my Demigryphs there they're rounding the corner by the burning house. Get a nice peek around the corner here and see if they get any decent charges off. My halberdiers stood still, and my general's unit there stood still. I moved forward, my Inner Circle Knights and my Core Unit Knights. And my Demigryphs moved up on the far right to tempt the Gorby's Chariot. And I stayed out of decent range. I think you would need a 9 with Swift Stride to get me at that point. My magic phase, I get Thorn of Vines up, and he lets it go. And then I just 6 dice Dweller's Blow. I Irresistible. I bounce off the Miscast, and I managed to snipe his level 4 wizard out of the Tizniche unit. So his magic turn 1 has been decimated, and it also managed to claim the lives of 8 of the warriors of Tizniche. So turn 1 magic phase, most successful, I must say. So I don't have to worry about his magic phase. In Chaos Warriors turn 2, he charges Dragon Ogres, and I flee with my archers. He tries to catch me, and he fails. So he's flapping out in the wind like that. I'm happy. I got my Demigryphs right there, and I plan on charging them in. And hopefully I can take out those squishy Dragon Ogres, because my Demigryphs will negate their armor, so I'm just hitting them on 4s and wounding them on 3s with my chickens. And just straight wounds. He also moves up with his Chaos Warriors. His Sauron and his unit of Nurgle Warriors just come on the crest of the hill there. And his Mark of Tizniche just march up right in front of my bowman. They don't charge him. They're just sitting in front there. His Gorby's Chariot actually makes this long bomb charge. Well, a 9 on Swift Stride. I guess it's doable, but I wasn't expecting it. So he managed to do 1 wound to me, and I whiffed my attacks on him. prize. I need 5s to hit him, and then I need 5s to wound him with my chickens, and he still's got 6-up save. And yeah, I roll a 9 for my leadership, so I break and run off the board, and he reforms like so to face my core unit knights here. My turn 2, I take my inner circle knights and I charge his chaos knights, and I had to take 2 dangerous terrain tests for because my 2 leftmost knights clip the fence here, and what do? I roll double 1s. So I'm 2 inner circle knights down before blows are even exchanged here. I take my chicken knights and I move them. I charge into his dragon ogres. I take my core unit knights and I move them back. So now he's going to need another 9 or a 10. I think it's even a 10 to get into me with his Gorby's chariot. So I actually move them back 4 inches. I take my Hurricanum and I move him within 6 inches of my inner circle knights there, just so I can give them the +1 to hit, because those are Mark of Nurgle Chaos Knights. So at least we'll be on even footing there. And you can see I took my archers and I moved them over 2 inches, just so I'm completely blocking his niche knights. My magic phase, I throw 2 dice at Throne of Irons. I rolled Snake Eyes. So, yep, there goes that magic phase. But it did allow me. I used the Hurricanum's bound ability, and I try and rain on these Nurgle warriors. And I managed to take out 4 of them. Who would have thought Nurgle warriors are susceptible to a heavy downpour? And I also managed to get a 5+ ward up on the inner circle knights, and I got a 5+ ward up on the core unit knights since my caster was down. So I just threw all my dice at bound abilities and the Hurricanum. In the combat, I managed to drop 1 of his Chaos Knights. He manages to drop 2 of mine. Over here, I managed to do 5 wounds on his Dragon Ogres, and he snuck 1 wound on me, which is huge because I win combat. He needs a 4 to stick on his General's Leadership rerollable, and he needs to fail this because I really don't want to take the charge next turn from Sauron and his cronies there. And he's stuck. So, yeah, that's not pretty. His turn 3, he takes his Gorby's chariot, and he makes the charge. So annoying. And as you can see here, those Dragon Ogres nailing that Leadership 4 rerollable test was horrific for me. And he takes his niche unit and he goes into my archers, which I know he's going to do, and I'm not really worried about it because I know they're going to die. I just hope he doesn't roll high on his overrun, so I'll be able to get the charge off on him. So the Gorby's chariot comes in. I got a 5-up ward in this unit. He takes out 3 of my knights. I roll a 10 for my leadership, and I run off the board. So he reforms this Gorby's chariot that has now claimed 3 Demigryph knights and now a whole unit of core knights and a warrior priest. Most annoying. In the combat over here, I drop 1 of him. He drops none of me, but he sticks. He overruns with his Tiznich warriors, and he comes about 1.5 inches short of my 2 units here, which is perfect, exactly what I wanted. And over here, it's just, I can't believe those Dragon Ogres stuck their rerollable 4. It pretty much spelled the doom of my Demigryphs. That's the risk I took. I mean, if I was able to break those Dragon Ogres and chase him down behind his lines, I just would have reformed and charged something in the rear. He would have had to dedicate this Sauron's unit here to make sure these Demigryphs didn't do anything to him, or at least the Gorby's chariot. But now it's doom. So I managed to do 4 wound. His Sauron goes and he does 4 wounds to my Demigryphs alone. His unit just whiffs completely. And so I allocate all my attacks on the Dragon Ogres just to try and get some combat res. I do 4 wounds. I drop that whole ogre and do a wound to this one. But it's not enough. He's got a charge. He's got his BSB, a banner, ranks. I'm on Snake Eyes. His Dragon Ogre chases me down. And Sauron and his cronies just reform to face the battle. So my turn 3, I take my General's unit with my Archlector and my warrior priest. No, excuse my arch selector, my BSB, and my general. I slam him into these Tenice warriors, and I also take my 50 halberdier men and I throw them in there as well. In the magic phase, I have thrown a vines up. Again, he's just dispelling it every turn because he has nothing better to do with his power dice because since he has no magic. So I was managed to get a 5-up ward on my halberdiers, Flesh of Stone, and the Throne of Vines. And I got reroll to wound on my Reiksguard Knights with all my characters. And you can see I took my Hurricanum, and I managed to sneak it behind his Tenice warrior. So he was within 6 inches of both these units. And I abandoned my knights up in the top right. And he's not in the charge arc of anything in his army, so he's safe just putzing around back there. The combat over there, he goes to town. He does 7 wounds to me with his attacks. And out of the 7 3-up saves I have to make, I fail 4 of them. So, as you can imagine, I run away. And he just reforms. The combat here is his ult that has to be challenged. My halberdier champion meets it and promptly gets dispatched. So my halberdier champion's down. I managed to do with the charge. I managed to do 9 wounds to him. He does wound to my 1 wound. Excuse me. He does 1 wound to my Reiksguard Knights. And I run him down. I choose not to pursue with my halberdiers, and my general's unit chases him down. I bump into my Hurricane, and I just stop there. So there goes the Tenice warriors. Chaos turn 4. He takes his Gorby's chariot and he plows it into my general's unit of Reiksguard's Knights, and he also takes the remainder of his Chaos Knights in there as well. And he did fail a dangerous terrain when he went over that fence there. So Sauron and his cronies go into my halberdier unit. I got Flesh of Stone up, Throne of Vines. I should be good to go for a few rounds, so hopefully I won't get tied up over here. And as you can see, there's the 1 wound he did on his knights when he charged the dangerous terrain. He comes in, impact hits, all that. He takes care of one of my knights. I move my BSB over to fight, so his guys are at -1 to hit with the White Wolf of Ulrich thing. His cloak there, his fancy dancy nightgown he wears. So I managed to take 1 wound. I do nothing to him. I win combat, or I lose combat by 1, and I just reform. I'm stubborn on a rerollable 10. So I turn to face him. In the combat over here, now everything he has is Mark and Nurgle, and that's my Hurricane right there is pivotal because I'm not hitting him on 5s. It kind of it balances out his Mark and Nurgle, which is amazeballs. In the combat over here, he issues a challenge with Sauron, and if I refuse with my Warrior Priest, I don't get the hatred, so I just accept it. And he's toughness 8, so he'll need 5s to wound me, so I'm just hoping he won't wound me, and he goes and he kills him, so that sucks. So I don't have hatred this round. The rest of his unit goes, and his BSB, he only managed to kill 1 of my guys. And then I do 8 wounds to him, and he saves 7 out of 8. Now I have halberds, so he has a 4-up save and then a 6+ parry. So out of the 8 wounds I did to him, he saved 7 of them. And you see in the top left corner here that green tally. That is the 4+, 6+ saves he has made. So pay attention to that as we go on. My turn 4, I take my Hurricane. I say, why not? He has no real threats in the backfield. The rest of my army's right here. He's going to be given the +1 to hit to everybody who's of any importance. So I charge him into the flank of the warriors for some combat res. And I get Flesh of Stone up. But I rolled really low for my magic, so I was only able to get Flesh of Stone. I couldn't get any of the Warrior Priest shenanigans going on this unit of Reiksguard Knights here. So the rest of the game I rolled piss poor magic phases, so I wasn't able to have a boon like I did earlier in the game. So in the combat over here, I managed to take out his champion, and that's pretty much all that happens. He sticks all his leadership tests. And the combat over here, with the impact hits from the Hurricanum, I kill a couple guys, and then Actually, I didn't kill any. I No, I did with the 2 impact hits. I did. I managed. I did 3 or 4. I did 3 impact hits. I killed 2 with the impact hits, and he killed 9 of me, and I did. I did. You could see the tally. He failed 2 of his saves in totality in this combat, and those were for the impact hits. But I managed to do another 10 wounds to him, and he saved them all. Just, you know, it was incredible. So the only 2 warriors that died were from the impact hits. Chaos Warriors turn 5. He tries to charge with his Dragon Ogre, and he fails the charge, but his Gorebeast Chariot gets into my Halberdiers. Great. An unkillable machine of death now I have to deal with over here. So he's going to get the impact hits and some extra strength 5 attacks. 7 of them. The combat over here. I managed to do a wound to his Gorebeast Chariot. He does nothing to me. His Bannerman breaks, and he just dies from breaking. And the Gorebeast Chariot sticks. In the combat over here, I snuck a wound past the Gorebeast Chariot. Yay. That's 1 down, 4 more to go. And I managed to drop 1 more Nurgle Warrior. And he managed to drop 5 of me. So he ends up winning the combat here, and he sticks around. And you can see the tally at the top left. He's now made 22 of 26, 4+6+ saves on this Nurgle unit. My turn 5, magic phase. At this point, I have to get Flesh of Stone on my Halberdier unit, or they're just going to evaporate. So I throw 6 dice at Flesh of Stone. I get it off. I roll a 6. I get that Calamitous Detonation. And I managed to put a wound on my Sorcerer, and I killed 9 out of my 10 remaining Reiksguard Knights. I had to do it. I really didn't have a choice. If I don't get Flesh of Stone off, I don't. But Halberdier unit folds. So, a price I had to pay. In the combat, he saves everything. Every last wound I put his way, he deflects. And he takes down 8 of my number. I'm still steadfast. I'm hanging on to steadfast by a thread. I just managed to kill the one I needed last turn to make sure I'd have enough ranks this turn. So I'm still on, steadfast reroll on my general because my BSP, my general is right there. So frustrating. I did rally my archers, you can see over here, and they just moved up to get in the Dragon Ogre's way. Turn 6, Chaos takes his Dragon Ogre, charges into my archers. I managed to do a wound to him. He kills 2 of me, and I flee. He just reforms his Dragon Ogre here to face the middle. In the combat, I do another wound to the Gorebeast Chariot. He does a wound to my BSB. Actually, not my BSB, to my Arch Selector, my general there. So I have a BSB. I did a wound. I still win by 1, and he sticks around. Actually, no, this one he takes out the last member of the unit, and then the Gorebeast goes and puts a wound on my Arch Selector. So we picked up all the points for the Reiksguard's Knights here, and he managed to tie the combat. So he sticks around once again. In the combat in the middle, he kills 11 of my number, and I do nothing in return. And you can see the green tally of the amount of wounds I put on his unit and the amount of saves he has made since this combat started. Yeah, that was pretty beefy rolling. So some notes. Yeah, at that point, that was Chaos turn 6, and I conceded the game because during my close combat, his unit, he was just going to wipe the floor. Even if I defeated his Gorebeast Chariot, which I wasn't going to, we were going to stay locked in combat. His general's unit would have just broke my steadfast and run me down. Between the Gorebeast Chariot, and the and Saruman and his cronies, they would have run down that unit. They would have broke it, and yeah, or they would have killed enough. It was gross. I conceded the game at that point. I didn't even want to roll the dice to watch my halberdiers get drowned in misery. So some notes. The Wizard Snipe. Turn 1, Dweller's Blow. you really can't ask for more than sniping to level 4 on turn 1. And it didn't cost me anything because of the Throne of Vines. I just shrugged off the miscast. The fact that I didn't have to deal with any of that pesky shadow magic was key for me, at least. It was awesome not having to worry about all those remains and plays and Pit of Shades. Because turn 1 he tried to Panera Bread Pendulum me. I dispelled it, and then he tried to Pit of Shades me, and I had Dispel Scrolled. So my Dispel Scroll was wasted on turn 1, and what do you know? His wizard didn't last past turn 1. So a wise use of Dispel Scroll, even wiser use of a Dweller's Blow, and how effective that was in turn 1 made me realize maybe I should have stayed back and be less aggressive and just tried to Throne of Vines and Dwellers for at least one more turn to bring down that Mark and Nurgle squad, because Saruman in that unit was, well, you saw. Gorby's Chariots, WTF. I can't say much more than that. Whoever designed the rules for that unit must have been high on something, because, man, market -1 to hit, toughness 6, 3 plus save, 5 wounds. Come on. Come on. And it's not like they're like any other chariot. Well, the Gorby's Chariot is just as dangerous every turn after the charge. Let alone, you don't even need the impact hits on that thing. Just the 7 strength 5 attacks alone on that thing will give any, you know, low strength or low toughness or anything a run for its money. As long as the unit it's fighting is not, a brick, any like chaff or any like moderate core unit, that thing will just tie up all game. God forbid you get another unit in there to add ranks and banners to it. That it's disgusting. Yeah, what a steal. Yeah, Gorby's Chariots are always a pain. And I didn't have any cannons in this list because I went kind of for a fluffy, like cav list, like a recon kind of army. And man, I just wish I had something to deal with those Gorby's Chariots. And that just goes to my next one. Good night, Knights. I have a decent amount of Knights painted, and I really wanted to use them. I've really steered away from using Knights, and this game was evidence why. I love the night. I love the look. I love the concept. They just did not perform whatsoever. And yeah, they were out of the general's leadership. I maybe got a little overzealous with them, but I thought I had decent matchups. But no, they just got decimated, and I just couldn't pass the leadership test. I whiffed my attacks. I couldn't do it. And the Gorby's Chariot alone mopped up Demigryphs. That one Gorby's Chariot mopped up the Demigryphs, and then it mopped up that whole unit, a core unit, and then survived the whole game, tying up my Reiksguard's Knights there. Such a pain. And that leads to my choice in Magic, Lore of Life. Even though Dwellers was very efficient in the first turn, after Dwellers Below, once, that was the glory of that spell faded, it's just, I flushed the stone. I got flushed the stone dependent, and if I hadn't cast it on that unit, I didn't. That unit of Halberdiers was gone. I had to get it. It was so imperative I got it that it really crippled my whole entire Magic phase, and led to the demise of the Reiksguard's Knights. If I was to do it over again, I would not choose Lore of Life. I would go back to Lore of Light. I think I would be able to bubble spam, -1 to hit, or weapon skill, or more attacks, or always strike first. It would be just so much better if I had life. So I'm really regretting my decision to take lower life. But dwelling a unit like that and getting rid of the source for turn 1 is something that was pretty cool. And goodbye life, because I probably won't take it again. I'll go back to light with my Empire. I love light. Like, really can't go wrong with light. And Hurricanum, the all-star of my game. That +1 to hit really counterbalanced the whole Mark and Nurgle. Really can't go for 100, 100 and under 150 points. It's for +1 power dice. I think is really just a bonus. I don't even need that. Just a +1 to hit to all units within 6 inches just makes those units uber hitty. And he just happened to have a lot of Mark and Nurgle, so it really didn't come to effect. But I really wouldn't want to play this game if I was hitting on 5s the whole game. So Hurricanum, I think, is an amazing little piece. I really, really can't leave home without it in my Empire army. And that just reminds me that my Demigryphs, I really used them pretty poorly. That's one thing. That was really my one those Dragon Ogres sticking that leadership, I took the risk and I paid for it dearly. And that Gore Beast, Chariot taking out the Demigryphs, that was my one regret, was not using the Demigryphs to their full potential. And that leads to the final thing. Sauron and his cronies, that unit making their saves. All I can do is shake my head and say, when you're rolling that hut, there's not much you can do. But man, that was a frustrating fight. So crushing defeat to the Empire, and good retiring for the my knights. Thank you very much, and goodbye.